Tennessee's report card in the Vols 45-26 win over Syracuse. Who stood out per position group and who did not? We get rolling and we started with what we just talked about, which was at quarterback. Quarterback on paper should be an epic performance for Tennessee against Syracuse. Joey Aguilar completed 16 of 28 passes for 247 yards. That is 8.8 yards per attempt. Okay, which is pretty good. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Add in the 34 yards he had rushing, and Joey Aguilar was incredible. However, Joey Aguilar, while he wasn't sacked at all, it wasn't like he had to take a sack. It wasn't like it was because he got rid of the ball quickly, even though he does. He managed to miss a lot of easy throws. Swing passes, screen passes, overthrowing passes over the middle, throwing them too hard. With that, they were so erratic. We had to give him a B-. Should have been better, but you can't ignore how he played in those moments with the swing passes and screen passes. All right, running back. We talked about Star Thomas, 12 carries, 92 yards. Deshaun Bishop, 11 carries, 82 yards. Peyton Lewis, 8 carries, 38 yards. And then Dwayne Morris, 2 carries for 2 yards as a team that lost 2 yards. Let's take the team stat in there and just throw out Aguilar because the rest are running backs, okay? You're talking at that point, 23, 31. You're talking 33 carries for 212, 214. You're on 34 carries for 212 yards if you assume that the team rushing stat is related to Tennessee's running backs. You're talking 34 carries for 212 yards. Last time I checked, that's over 4 yards a carry, and that's all the way down the line, and the starters all averaged. Star Thomas averaged 7.7, Deshaun Bishop 7.5, and then Peyton Lewis 7.8, very close. That's enough for the running back group to get an A when you consider Star Thomas' 7-yard touchdown catch. All right, wide receiver unit. I'm going to go B+. Braylon Staley, 4 catches, 95 yards, a touchdown. Chris Brazel, 5 catches, 62 yards. Mike Matthews, 2 catches, 29 yards. Kudos to all of them. Miles Kitzelman, as part of the offense, 2 catches, 10 yards, and a touchdown. We'll get the tight ends, so I'm going to hold off on that. But the other ones, Braylon Staley, Chris Brazel, and Mike Matthews. The good sign is Joey Halsley is doing what I called for, which is the old David Kunkel model of you have 3 receivers. You have a go-to, a complimentary, and a guy in the slot. He's doing that here, and in that situation, Braylon Staley was able to ball out. With that in mind, just doing that is enough to give them a B because they don't need that many people to rack up yards. But nobody got 100, and there were a lot of other things that could have happened. A couple of receivers could have had more yards, more catches, and maybe even a touchdown. So with that, I'm going B+. All right, moving on. Tight end to B. Miles Kitzelman, 2 catches for 10 yards. He did have a touchdown, an 8-yard touchdown. Major props to Miles Kitzelman for that. But they weren't used as much in the passing game as they should be. The blocking was solid. That's why they get a B. But they need to get more involved in the passing game. Offensive line, A. I can't believe I'm saying this. A. Tennessee replaced 4 offensive linemen, most notably Cooper Mays, Andre Carrick, and Javonte Spraggins in the middle, but also John Campbellton Jr. at right tackle. And last year, Lance Hurd wasn't fully healthy. Hurd was fully healthy. They replaced him with David Sanders Jr., and they had 3 new offensive linemen, William Satterwhite, Sam Pendleton, Wendell Moore Jr., and Cisco Perry getting involved in the rotation. How did all this work out? Tennessee did not allow a sack on the day. That has to stand out. Offensive line gets an A. Defensive line, we wish the best for Jackson Moy, but they still get an A. Nathan Robinson forced a fumble that Colton Hood returned for a touchdown. This team had 3 sacks because of the push of the defensive line. There's no denying they get an A. Linebackers get an A. And this is largely due to Aaron Carter and Jeremiah Thielander playing so well. Jeremiah Thielander came away with an interception in this game, and Aaron Carter led the team in total tackles. Had 9 total tackles, 3 solo, a sack, and a tackle for a loss. Probably the same thing. And also, you could add in the edge rushers on this, by the way, but we'll get to that in a second. But the linebackers did exactly what they were supposed to do with an A, and you're going to see this long term. They looked like they were very comfortable. Remember, last year, Aaron Carter was comfortable starting. Jeremiah Thielander wasn't ready. Keenan Pili was supposed to help, but Keenan Pili was coming off a season-ending injury, and then he suffered another one, so Jeremiah Thielander had to start when he wasn't ready. And Aaron Carter, while he was the starter, wasn't fully developed yet, so not being fully developed and either having a complimentary linebacker who was coming off an injury or wasn't ready to go, which was Aaron Carter's whole year last year, was going to hinder him. He doesn't have that this year because Jeremiah Thielander is coming back. That's a big deal. That helps them a lot. And I think Tennessee should be excited about what those two guys can bring to the table. We're not sure yet, but we have to give credit to the way this all would play out. All right, we're moving on with our report card. Edge rushers. I still believe in Joshua and Jordan Ross long term as the edge rusher, but I have to go by what I see. And at this moment, it is undeniable that Joshua Josephs is living up to the hype that he could be the next James Harris. 6 total tackles, three solo tackles, a tackle for a loss, a sack. Joshua Josephs was all over the field, wreaking havoc on Steve Angeli. And with that in mind, the edge rushers have to get an A. Again, we don't know how this is all going to play out, but this was a great start to the season for them. And with that in mind, and with the help they had on the other side of Dominic Bailey and Tyree West, both returning players who could be elite, you got to give a lot of credit to Joshua Josephs and what he was able to do. So I'm going to go ahead and say the edge rushers get an A. I got no complaints with what they were able to do. Defensive backs. All right, C+. Now, this is a hot take. But at the end of the day, you can't ignore the fact that Steven Jelly completed 23 of 40 passes for 274 yards and a touchdown and an interception and completed an average almost 7 yards per completion. Doesn't seem great. It's too good when you run up against a Tennessee defense that's experienced and has way more talent everywhere over the field. With that in mind, I just don't think there's any way to avoid that this unit deserves a C+. Now, fully healthy Jerome McCoy, we might be telling a different story. Ricky Gibson III getting hurt in the game. If that doesn't happen, we might be telling a different story. But that's not the story we're telling. We're telling the story over how they actually performed in the moment during this game. And that's solely in a vacuum. And when you take it solely in a vacuum, there was no way around the fact that this unit struggled severely at times. I mean, again, Steven Jelly had completed 23-40 passes for 274 yards. And it's not like Syracuse ran the ball well. He had 44 carries for 103 yards, at 2.3 yards per carry. The only issue is, even though they had three touchdowns, and Yasin Willis is a star, 23 carries for 91 yards, 4 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. Truth of the matter is, the secondary did not do its job the way it needs to stop the pass, and that had a huge negative impact on this team, and it's why they weren't able to put Syracuse away. Now, again, they should eventually, they were always going to eventually put him away. Defense wasn't terrible. Cornerbacks and defensive backs weren't terrible. Secondary wasn't terrible. Based on the standards last year, they didn't meet it, but those are impossible standards, and they still surpassed the standards of 2022 and 2021. And even 2023 for that matter. But this was not a good look with the way they finished the season. Okay, now we go over to special teams. And this is kind of interesting. Let's just talk place kicking. Well, Max Gilbert kicked 1 field goal. It's a 34-yard field goal. He hit it. He also was 6 of 6 on extra points, interestingly enough. Max Gilbert also, for those who don't know, managed to hit a field goal beyond 50 yards last year. Not relevant to how he played in this game, but enough to prove that he is an elite kicker. And that's not the only reason we have to tout the place kicking in this game. because also with the place kicking in this game, we have to point out that Josh Turbeville, every kickoff he had in this game, every single one, and don't forget, Tennessee beat them 45-26. Every single one, which would involve 6 touchdowns, a field goal, meaning that's 7 plus a halftime kickoff, 8. All 8 kickoffs he had went for touchbacks. Huge deal. A+ for special teams. How about punting? Well, again, Tennessee moved the ball so well they didn't have to do it that much in this game. But Jackson Ross did punt 4 times for 173 yards, averaged 43.8 yards per punt. Seems low, right? But he pinned 3 inside the 20. And his long was 56. He pinned 3 inside the 20. You get a huge win on that front. And Jackson Ross, again, is a heck of a punter. The only bad punt for Tennessee by Jackson Ross was Ricky Collins. What was in the Ricky Collins actually called it. He fair called it. The quarterback who lost his job to Steven Jelly. It was in the second quarter with 5:33 left. It was a 39-yard punt and Tennessee punted it from their own 10. Should have been longer, but at the same time, from their own 10, a lot of pressure can come up on that point. So you give Jackson Ross a bit of a break on that. Punting still gets an A+ to us. The return game is an incomplete. The return game is a huge incomplete because Braylon Staley had 1 2-yard punt return. Peyton Lewis a 24-yard kick return. That's basically used to the 25-yard line. I could honestly go for a C-, even go for a D here with this. Just not enough evidence. I'll probably just go straight C for the return game because they just didn't show or prove enough to give me an opinion one way or another. But at the end of the day, Tennessee did dominate Syracuse 45-26.